I think the path puts you where you need to go for a reason. My vantage point of the accident, it didn't look too bad, but I guess he was pretty pissed off about it.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to episode number 4 of the Pit Crew podcast. Today, we got a special guest. That's going to be DGM driver Nick Leitz. We've seen him on track in Atlanta. We're going to see him on track at Las Vegas in car number 92. I want to be joined by Robert Hill and Chris from Drive Smart. How you feeling, fellas?
What's up, guys?
Hey,
Thank
Nick,
you for having me on.
Thanks for joining us. So you're also in Vegas right now, right?
Yes, sir. Just landed a couple hours ago as well. So excited to get on the track tomorrow.
And how old are you, Nick?
I am 27, 28 in October. So
yeah, we watched you last week in Atlanta. We're super excited to see you tomorrow for practice and qualifying, and then Saturday, obviously, in the race in the 92 machine. So where we like to always start our interviews is kind of starting with the early life, right? So if you could kind of give us a rundown, tell us about your childhood, where you're from, your early years in your life, sir.
Yeah, I did. Started out, well, it's a fun story. We just moved into our new house in like 2005. I saw NASCAR, the Homestead race finale on TV. And I was always into the Hot Wheels, John Deere, stuff like that. And I saw the NASCAR race on TV. My parents were watching it. I was like, that looks kind of fun. I want to maybe do that one day. So they bought me this NASCAR game with a steering wheel and everything. So I would be on that every day when I get home from school. Would just go straight to that, play the PS2. I think it was a PS2 NASCAR game. Play that every day, and then we finally got a go-kart and started racing Langley Speedway and the Hampton Roads Kart Club, and won a lot of races in that, couple of championships, and then just moved up to the Legends cars, toured all around North Carolina with that. I think part of the Pass series. I don't know if they're still around, but we did that and then moved into a limited late model, and then finally the big late models. And then I made my truck start a couple of years ago at Nashville, and now here we are with I think my third Xfinity start at Las Vegas this weekend.
So you're by definition, we always hear about sim to reality. I mean, you're by definition the OG of sim to reality. Probably NASCAR Heat, if I'm correct, right? Was probably your first game you played.
It's like that, either that or NASCAR 09 or 08 or something. But yeah, I had the steering wheel and pedals all before iRacing really took off with it.
And then how old were you when you first got into go-kart racing? When did you really put yourself out on the track?
I think I was 12 or 13, and just started with that and moved to the Legends cars and stuff.
And then
real full-size stock cars.
So obviously motorsports is not a cheap sport to get into, right? Even go-karting is not cheap. So how much convincing did you have to do with your parents to get from playing the video game to actually buying a go-kart and giving this thing a go? What was that like?
Yeah, my mom was not for it at all. But I know I have supported parents that, wanted me to chase my dreams and do that stuff. So they were on board once we finally got it all together and stuff. It wasn't much convincing for my dad because, I think he actually owned a car way back in the day. I didn't even know this when we started racing. He owned one stock car or something that ran at Langley once. So that was kind of cool to puzzle the pieces back together and do that.
And I'm passing to my friend DLB here because I know he's always got some good questions.
Absolutely. So you talked a lot about sim racing already. Are you big into sim racing games such as iRacing? And how much has that been a help to you on the real life racetrack? And how realistic is a sim such as iRacing?
Yeah, do iRacing every day of the week. I'm actually part of this Murphy Esports on iRacing that we do a league every Tuesday night. Yeah, I think it helps out a lot. When I wasn't racing a lot, I would just be on iRacing, and I think it really helped me with my first NASCAR truck start was being on iRacing all the time and translating it over to real life. You don't get the whole motion and feel like you do in a real car, but it gets you in the rhythm of just staying on track and stuff like that.
I want to stay on the topic of iRacing that DLB just brought up. You mentioned Langley Speedway where you got your start. How does the iRacing version of that track compare to what you actually raced on?
It's somewhat similar. I haven't raced there a lot in the full size car, mostly just the go-kart and Legends car, but they do a great job. iRacing does a great job with how they scan the tracks and bring it to real life to sim situations.
Absolutely. And obviously being a driver that doesn't necessarily, I don't know if you do have access to the manufacturer simulators. I wouldn't think so, as of right now anyways, but do you find that using iRacing is that good tool for you to use to get out there, learn some of these tracks, such as Vegas this weekend? Have you run a lot of laps on the simulator to prepare for this one?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It'd be cool to be part of that OEM, sim thing, but
Absolutely.
not there yet. But but no, but iRacing, running Vegas on that, it definitely, I think, hopefully will translate over pretty well this weekend. But did a bunch of laps this week to prepare for it. So yeah.
Then I was going to ask you a question. So growing up, I know you said your first race that you watched was the finale at Homestead. So everybody had a favorite driver, right, when they were younger. Who was your favorite driver?
You'd think it would be Tony Stewart because he won the championship in the Home Depot car, but it was him for a couple of days, I think, and then I think I just always picked the flamed number 24 on the NASCAR '09 game. So naturally, it was Jeff Gordon who became my favorite driver, and followed him ever since he retired in 2015.
With those DuPont and those Pepsi designs they had on the car, the wraps they had on the car, some of them are like so iconic. Like if you think about the number 24, and I know William Byron does a great job, right? Just won a huge race, but like I can't see the 24 and think about anybody but Jeff Gordon, probably for the rest of my life.
Right? Yeah, I know. They got some good paint schemes back in the day too with all that. But yeah, Jeff Gordon forever.
Jeff Gordon forever for sure. And then so you told us a little bit about obviously how you got into racing, and starting with the game, and then starting in real life, getting into the go-karts and kind of making that transition all the way up to Xfinity. But so what we've heard from some of our other interviewees is that you got to make some sacrifices, right? When it comes to like school and like what a typical 13, 14, 15-year-old would go through versus like somebody who's trying to race professionally like you are. So what was like high school and things like when you're touring and you're on the track, like give us that experience, like the day-to-day life.
Yeah, it was not very good for me academically. I wasn't passing most of the classes for that, but we pushed through it and graduated high school, and there wasn't much, I guess, sacrifice for me. I guess you could say. I don't know. It's kind of tough. I just know that the schooling, I would get out of school and the teachers and stuff would not be a fan of that, nor my mom. But we pushed through and was able to do it.
So I got some questions. Obviously, you're running some races for DGM. You're getting some track time, getting some experience. Everything's looking good. You're doing amazing on that side of things. But I'm curious, what is your goals and expectations for this season? Is it to get more seat time? Is it to get more races in? And this can go for on track and off track. This goals and expectations for 2024.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. Good finishes. Get more races in. Kind of just put my name out there. To look at these other teams and drivers and say, that get the respect that I would want. But no, I feel like what you said was just more laps and more seat time, really.
Oh yeah, for sure. We love seeing you run that number 92 car. Are we going to see you run any more races this season? Like, what's the game plan of that?
Yeah, I'd like to. I'm all for it. We just need to find the sponsorship, like you guys said. It's not a cheap sport, but yeah, if we can find the sponsorship for it, I'd like to keep doing this. And everybody at DGM is great. I think we vibe very well. We had a strong run at Atlanta, and we'll try to carry it over to Vegas and see if we can't pull any more races off this year and get some good finishes there as well.
Momentum is key, and you definitely killed it at Atlanta. So, talking about Atlanta, we went into qualifying. There was no laps on that track. So, you being new to the Xfinity Series and Atlanta being a wide open track, walk us through qualifying, because I was imagine that would have been a little bit scary considering you haven't turned a single lap at Atlanta in the Xfinity car all weekend and going straight to qualifying. How did it feel?
It was, yeah, it was scary. Going into turn number 1 for the first time, I didn't think the car would stick at all, so I let out of the gas, and that ruined our 1 lap of qualifying, I think. But, later on in the race, I got more comfortable with it, and I just said to myself later on in the race, why did I even lift in qualifying? Because that car could take it, and that track's fast, and it's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. It's basically a full-on super speedway. So I'm going to pass it over to Robert Hill, as I'm sure he has some pretty good questions here as always.
Yes, sir. Nick, so obviously you mentioned trying to piece together some additional races on your schedule, and we hope to see you out there more often, but what is your day-to-day, week-to-week looking like when you're not behind the wheel of a NASCAR Xfinity Series car or a Craftsman truck, and how do you stay ready to go for the next event as well?
I actually work at the company that sponsors it's my dad's company, Precision Measurements. I'm a land surveyor there, so I do Monday through Friday, well, Monday through Wednesday now, since I'm out here, from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. I'm out there in the field land surveying for him, and then when I get home, I hop on iRacing and get as much seat time and sim time as I can.
And are you the person that's contacting all the companies trying to put the sponsorship together? Do you have a team behind you? What's that look like?
Kind of broke up on there, but yeah, I'd say most of the time I'm writing a little bit of the emails. I think me and my dad, we're a great team for that. Writing the emails to get anybody on board to help us out financially for continuing racing.
You talk about your dad. So has your dad always been really big into racing and stock car racing? Because it seems like he's such a big factor with everything going on now and obviously supporting everything that you have going on. Has he always been big into racing as well?
Not really. I don't know. Really, it I don't know where he even wanted to start that team in Langley came from. But I think ever since then he wasn't really much into it, and then just got dragged back into it when I started racing. So I guess he knew of it, but he wasn't like into it as much as he is now. I think you could say.
So I know that obviously you roamed around some of the smaller circuits and the late models, but then can you tell us about your first truck start and like that experience?
Yeah, that was nerve wracking as well. We were the number 43 for Josh Rayum, and it didn't have that much owner points. So I think we were like one of the ones to go home if I didn't qualify that well. So we got there to practice. I think we only got like 6 minutes of practice because they had so many cautions and only the 20 minutes of practice we get. So it only put us for like 6 minutes of practice. And then I had to go out there and make a lap in qualifying. And thankfully we set a good lap in and got in the race and came home with, I think, a 26 finish on the lead lap. So
What was your second truck start then after that? Because I'm sure the first one's got to have all the nerve.
yeah, that was, I think my second one was at Richmond. So it was like a hometown crowd. So even more nerve wracking, I think, would be that one. It would be Nashville, which was nervous, and then Richmond in front of everybody, which was more nervous as well. But that one didn't go quite as well because on iRacing, I know that track doesn't correlate over to the real life. That track in real life, it is slick and it is tough. And I did not expect that at all going into practice and qualifying. So we struggle a little bit. And I think that's the one where me and Carson got together, and I was the only DNF of that race.
Be asking a question out loud. Any of you guys can feel free to answer. But with a track like Atlanta, why is there no practice, right, for Xfinity? Like, that's something I don't know. So if somebody does know the answer to it, I would love to know.
Yeah, I asked Kyle about that when I was at his house. So Kyle Weatherman, he said basically it carried over from COVID and just never changed since 2020. I don't know if Nick has a different idea than what I've been told.
No, I think you're right. I heard, Bob Pocker say on Twitter that it's just the teams don't want to draft and try to damage their car, I think. But yeah, since the whole COVID thing, they haven't really practiced that much.
Yeah, from what I gathered with that, it was a way to save some money, an economical adventure that they opted to go with. I don't know that it necessarily works well. And Nick, you could tell us from the driver point of view, how tough of it is it showing up at a track and only getting 20 minutes?
It's not fun. I wish we got the practice like they did back in the day, but I think most of the practice they do now is just sim. Try to correlate over to real life.
Because essentially the 20 minutes you get is more like a shakedown just to make sure everything's tightened and the car's ready to go.
Yeah, 100%. I didn't even remember when they had the COVID days and they just go straight into racing. So I couldn't imagine doing that.
That'd be tough. Unloading the car, hopping in and just going green. That wouldn't be too fun.
And then have you ever raced at Las Vegas before this in truck or any other series, or is this your first venture to Las Vegas?
It's my first time out here, so excited for that. I like the 1.5 miles. Always been a fan of them since I think the truck days. But 1.5 miles are where it's at, I believe.
So now that you're under all the lights, this is also my first time in Las Vegas, right? So like it's obviously earlier here than it is on the East Coast where I'm from and where you're from. So it's like 5:30 in the afternoon, but the sun's going to start going down soon. The lights are going to start turning out. I think they say the freaks come out at night. So Nick, if you feel like sharing, and you don't have to because you have a big race this weekend, but what are you going to take advantage of some of your time in Las Vegas tonight?
Oh yeah, 100%. First time here, you gotta experience what Vegas is all about. It's Sin City for a reason. So we're gonna go out to dinner here soon and see what it's like.
As long as you don't end up with Mario Gosling looking like that movie Hangover, either version of it, you should be okay. Racing black eye, missing a tooth. As long as we avoid all that, I think you'll be fine. And then Robert, you're usually my podcast historian, right? So if you do you have any historical questions that we can start firing off to this man?
Yeah, well, let's talk about your racing history a little bit more, Nick. Is there a moment in your career where you really felt like you had an opportunity to make it to these higher levels of NASCAR? And in the same question, is there an opportunity you wish you could go back and do something over?
That's a good question. Opportunity. It's always just been about the grind of it and late models and doing that. I think, late models was just as far as I was going to get. I had some great people in the late models. Shout out to Jay Hedgecock. He builds all the chassis for the late models and drivers and teams out there now. But yeah, I just didn't think I'd ever be in an Xfinity car. So it's definitely a humbling experience and grateful for it as well. But what was the second part of your question too?
Is there a moment in your racing career? It could be early days, could be even recent as the last couple of years. Is there a moment that you wish you could go back and do it over, maybe go a different path of sorts?
Yes and no. I don't know. You don't want to really, look back on the times where you should have done that, should have done that. I think the path puts you where you need to go for a reason. And that's, I think, what you said. Yeah, yes and no.
Okay, okay. And over the last couple of weeks, obviously we've talked to Natalie Decker, we talked to Kyle Weatherman, Mario Goslin as well. And Kyle and Natalie both talked to us about some of the people that have supported them over the years, some mentors in the sport. Have you had people like that in your corner that have been there for you throughout each and every step?
Yeah, you know, Josh with the truck start has helped me a lot. I know Tyler Young, when I drove for him, has helped out, and everybody on that team. Spencer Boyd was part of it, and then going over here with Mario, he's been great to work with, and even Kyle. Talking to him before the race in Atlanta, getting some pointers on that. It's just good to have people with knowledge in the sport and done it before, and good people to continue going forward with.
Absolutely.
So, how important is it to lean on teammates going into tracks that you never been to before? And like, obviously, some of these races you're going to have teammates with experience, sometimes not so much. How important is that connection overall?
I think it's very important to have you know teammates that have driven before on the track and give you a couple pointers on what to do and what not to do. Um, yeah, you can definitely lean on them with any questions you have, and good crew chiefs as well. Yeah, with Mario, he's been a great help with learning new things when it comes to this car that I haven't really had much experience in.
Absolutely. I mean, there's just so much with the NASCAR Xfinity Series that's always changing, and so many new tracks and so many things going on. So after the race at Atlanta, you seen your teammate get into a little scuffle there. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that was something else. I know you filmed it, put it on YouTube, and it took off with that. But it wasn't something I expected out of that. It didn't, from my vantage point of the accident, it didn't look too bad. But I guess he was pretty pissed off about it.
NASCAR also took it and ran with it.
He was very upset about it.
Yeah.
So I wasn't at Atlanta. I was watching it from home, and so I follow on Twitter too, because like I'm a real race fan junkie. I got like my phone going, my tablet on, I got my TV on, and then I looked, and they asked where the 91 garage was, and I was like, well, you only asked that question for one of two reasons: one, to say thank you, and the other one would be to, I guess, try to put Kyle in a headlock, right? So I thought that was a pretty crazy experience, and racing gets heated. Never want to see anybody put hands on somebody else. I mean, although the fans do. Like, obviously, we love Kyle, we love DGM, we love the team. So, like, you're basically adopted now, right, Nick? So, like, we never want to see any guys get hurt on or off the track, because you're risking it all on a week-to-week basis. So, I know heat-ups and flare-ups happen. I'm not a huge fan of it, right? I would go watch WWE instead. But, these things do happen, and I'm glad it got under control pretty quickly. So now, when you got done with the race, I imagine you went back home. Is there any, like, now that you're into your second race in a row, right, is there anything you did differently to prep for this week versus Atlanta?
Definitely. I was sore coming back from Atlanta. I took it easy this week. Didn't put too much strain on my body. Try to recover. But yeah, just a lot of sim time, I think, was the most helpful for this week.
Your hotel is so much nicer than mine, Nick. Your back, like, I don't want you to move your camera around, but I'm looking. Your background is dope. I'm not gonna lie.
He's got wood beams on the ceiling, a cactus. Like, what is that?
Gonna have to ask for an upgrade.
Hey yo, hey yo!
Look at that! Look at that chandelier. He's got like 12 lights on it.
They put him in the 5-star hotel.
The worst part is the lights probably don't even work. It's decorative. He's got a lamp in the corner to light it up.
You got is that a cactus? This is great. You got a nice little setup there. At least you're like living in comfort.
Well,
so what's your, like? So actually, now let's just forget racing for a second. Let's just talk about your personal impression. Like, it's your first time in Las Vegas, going down the strip. Like, are you what do you think? Like, what, taking it all in? Like, what's your first impression of Las Vegas, Nevada?
I've played American Truck Sim, and driving through Las Vegas, it was like, okay, this is pretty cool. So when I landed on the plane and I saw all the buildings, I'm like, this is just like the game. But I haven't experienced the strip yet, but I want to do that tonight for sure.
Like what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. You could definitely get lost out here. I'm gonna do everything I can just to stay inside the building. I will be the cage that, or be the tiger that's locked inside the room this weekend. But I'm really excited to go out there and see the track, like to see Vegas, because like what you were saying, Nick, I'm a pretty big fan of mile and a halves. I mean, obviously, as a fan, I love super speedways, so I'll say that to say this. But
Yeah.
I am a fan of mile and a half tracks. I'm not the biggest fan of road courses per se. But I do always have a special place in my heart for Las Vegas. I think it's gonna be a great race, on Saturday and on Sunday. So when you're going into practice tomorrow, like, do you have any, like, what's your goals, right, for practice tomorrow?
Just definitely get a feel for the car. Put down a good lap time to where I'm comfortable, and just try to correlate that good practice session over to the race and try to get a good finish out of the race as well.
Yeah, I can imagine the whole idea, right? And is you can't win the race on Saturday in practice, right? But you can absolutely screw it up. God forbid something bad happens. And then getting into, because qualifying, if I'm correct, it happens right after practice, right?
Yeah, yeah. So 20-minute practice and then the one lap of qualifying, I think.
So that's good. At least you'll have some momentum going into it. Make a couple adjustments, which take some time, so you get some laps under your belt. But at least you'll have some comfort level, right, to get in there. So when you go into qualifying, it's not that first time full sending it into one, which I think what you tell me when you sim race in one, if I recall, because I haven't raced Vegas in a while, you are off a little bit, right? That's not a whole wide open track, if I'm right.
Right. Yeah, you drive it in there pretty good, and then there's like bump in the middle of 1 and 2. I know it's probably gonna be a lot more tough in real life than the game.
So my question is, for qualifying in the race, what is your goal position to qualify and to finish in the race? Obviously, it being a track that you're going to for the very first time, I know you must be very overwhelmed going into it, and the results. I'm just curious what you're aiming for overall with it.
Definitely a top 20. I'm not the best qualifier. I'll say that. I'm a good, I think, long run car. I think so. If we can get a top 20 out of the race, I'll be pretty happy leaving Vegas.
Absolutely. That sounds like a heck of a plan. We're definitely going to be pulling for you this weekend at Las Vegas. It's going to be a fun one, and I'm going to pass it over to Robert Hill.
Yeah, DLB just mentioned your goals for this weekend. I'm going to talk about your goals, obviously, for the rest of the season and looking ahead a couple seasons down the road. Where do you see yourself? Where do you want to be in your racing career?
Everybody's going to say the championship and winner and the Cup
Of
Series
course.
and all that, but yeah, I'd just like to, keep doing this weekend and week out with these guys. They're great. If we can do that, that'd be great. Just more seat time, more hours behind the wheel, and getting to know everybody on and off the track. Gain their respect from that. I think that would be a good goal to have for this year and later on in the years as well.
Absolutely, Nick. Best of luck this weekend. We hope you have a solid finish that might lead to something even bigger for you towards the end of the season.
Nick, we wish you the best of luck in Las Vegas. All right, I'm going to see you at the track tomorrow. We'll see you at the track on Saturday. Everybody's in chat, or anybody who goes ahead and sees this once we turn it into a video. Nick, where can they find you on socials?
I appreciate it. Yeah, find me at Nick Leitz on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. And appreciate you having me on here, guys.
Appreciate you being here, Nick. You have a great night.
Thank you. You guys too.
Fourth host of this, whether you guys know it or not, right? But I want to do something a little bit different because we do get a ton of views on the YouTube channel post the actual live stream. So we like to bring it live because it's something for us to do on Thursday and bring out these drivers and these team owners. And we have some special guests coming up in the next few weeks. But I'm also, so DLB, I know you're going to love this one because it's going to take more editing. But I also want to do a giveaway on the YouTube video, right? So we're also going to give away 3 T-shirts on the YouTube video. And all they're going to have to do is leave a comment, and we'll give it away in the following live stream that we do. So I think that'd be pretty cool to do a little bit of a follow-up. So with that said, guys, we're going to be signing off. We're in Vegas. I'm going to go take a shower. You guys are going to go get prepared for tomorrow and Saturday, and we're going to see you guys all here live next Thursday, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Love you. Peace out. Be safe. Have fun. Drive smart. Good night.